I'm Ryan Benson from the Pop Culturist, and this is our dissection of Underworld Blood Wars. Now, the story of Underworld Blood Wars is... hang on. Vampire death dealer Selene, Kate Beckinsale, continues her struggle against the Lycan clan and the vampire faction that betrayed her, with both sides trying to use the blood of her and her daughter to become vampire Corvinus hybrids. After hiding her daughter, Selene, David, Theo James, and his father Thomas, Charles Dance, attempt to end the internal war between Lycans and Vampires, though it may cost Selene her life. Look, the Underworld franchise has never really been known for its incredibly strong storyline. Now, the movie itself doesn't really expect you to remember either. Being the fifth in the franchise, fifth? Yeah, it's kind of at a tough place. Luckily, the first 5 minutes approximately is a nice little flashback story with Kate Beckinsale telling you everything that's happened from Underworld 1 to Underworld Awakening, which is really quite handy because it's convoluted, but in a weird way, it was a nice sort of refresher to the storyline. But for Underworld Blood Wars, the story is sort of by the numbers. It's like it's nothing too amazing. There's no award for screenwriting happening here. It's fine for what it is. And once again, for the fifth movie in a franchise, it's perfectly fine for me. It tells a story and it kind of pushes the Underworld lore forward a little bit, but without a punch. There's no big moment. It's just plodding along the whole way through. Now, granted, it is an action movie, so we're not trying to, invoke emotion and big dramatic moments from it. But it sort of wants you to feel for Selene as she has the difficulty of trying to locate her daughter, who she sent off at the end of Awakening for her safety, seeing that she's the first pure hybrid. But outside of them wanting her blood, there are a couple of other slight story threads in there, but now once again, nothing really too amazing. And in terms of how this movie looks, it looks like Underworld. No major complaints there. It's pretty much exactly what you'd expect. It's people in tight leather, jumping around, doing vampire-y things, and werewolf-y looking people. As you would imagine, as time has progressed, the CG of the werewolves has greatly improved. Now, I would probably call this the best the werewolves have ever looked. The previous CG werewolves did look alright, but it was this weird sort of middle ground. I was never really quite happy with how they looked. With this one, it was pretty solid. No major complaints there at all. Seeing that it is about vampires and Lycans and the darker side of supernatural, the movie seemed to have this black filter over everything, which makes sense being it in the night. Everything's set in the night because they're vampires. But it actually made it incredibly difficult to notice details in the sets or details in the actors, like even just their face. Like, we live in a high-def world. There is a standard when it comes to how you present a film and how you look at it. Whether this be an artistic decision to sort of keep it that way, or it's a way to sort of hide potentially average set design or average special effects. I found for me it really broke me. I found myself squinting, trying to pick out what was what. Mind you, there was never like moments of, oh, here, look at this, and they never really show because it's kind of hidden in darkness. But I would have been better if there was a little bit less of that. But in the same breath though, whenever they do put light into it, as an example, when there's a fight and some windows get broken and light pumps in, because of those blacks, that light becomes incredibly prominent in quite a substantial way. So I guess in terms of an artistic decision, having moments of light like that, it really does a nice, contrast might not be the right word, but it shows a nice yin to a yang, a kind of a balance, I guess. Like, there's so darkness and the brights are really bright. It was kind of good in that way. But in terms of performances though, it was alright. Like, there was no Oscar-worthy performances coming out of this movie, nor would you expect that from this. But, everyone does play their part. A lot of the dialogue and delivery is pretty exposition heavy, very bland and sort of boring, and that could be what they're working with, regardless of what their work is. Now, a lot of the actors in this movie, actors and actresses, I should say, we have seen them in other work, so we know they can do a good job. So it kind of shows a little bit about what the script and the work is themselves, I guess. It appears that when actors are not doing Game of Thrones, they wander over to B-grade movies. I guess the ones that are shot in England. I assume this was shot in England. Everyone does have English accents, so I guess potentially. It's very interesting. Like, you see Tywin Lannister rock up. I think it's one of the older Starks that you don't see that often. It's funny. You'd imagine they'd be kind of bummed about being semi-typecast into sort of fantasy sci-fi-ish area. But to each his own, I guess. But overall, Underworld Blood Wars is a really hard movie to review. From a critical standpoint, it's made alright. Like, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not the strongest movie I've ever seen. The CG's alright. It's got that weird look, like the weird look to it. You know, performances were okay. It depends on what you want coming into the movie. If you know what Underworld is, you know it's a vampire movie with werewolves, people are dressed in leather, it's an action movie, you don't expect a lot out of it. If that's what you go into this movie expecting, you are going to have a good time. I did. I dropped all expectations. I had a really good time watching this film. I wasn't expecting big, insanely moving, compelling movie. I was expecting a good bit of fun with some shooting, some explosions, some vampires fighting each other. Look, it was a pretty solid movie overall. And look, it's a movie that does vampires somewhat justice. In a post-Twilight world, it's lovely to see vampires being somewhat what we know vampires to be. Gritty, brutal, not sparkling, not all about loving. It was quite a breath of fresh air, actually. But if I had to rate this movie, as I mentioned, it's kind of tough. I would give it somewhere around probably like a 6.5. It's a pretty solid movie. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but there are some things that are lacking to bring it up any higher. Regardless that I enjoyed it, from a critical standpoint, it's not a very strong movie, but I'm certainly glad I saw it. So I should mention thank you to All Star Comics for giving me the ticket to go and see this preview screening. I really, really enjoyed it. For more reviews of movies, games, be sure to go to popculturist.com or like and subscribe below. Let us know what you think of Underworld Blood Wars. You know, is it a franchise that's sort of burnt out for you, or do you still have that fiery passion for those leather-clad vampires? Let us know. I'm Ryan Betson, and that was Underworld Blood Wars.